Good afternoon, everybody. How's the sound? Can you hear me okay? Okay. We're just going to get started in just a couple minutes. Emmett went to get some more plates, so I'm sorry we ran out of the large plates. Please get up at any time during the presentation and get more food, keeping it very informal. And so while we're waiting, just a few announcements. We haven't planned our June or July. Usually we do like one lunch and learn in the summer. A lot of people are out on vacation. We're working on planning that, so we'll have information forthcoming about what that will be about. We are doing an update on our room reservation system this Tuesday from 5 to 7 p.m. That's the EMS system. So reservations.law will be down for about 2 hours. The update doesn't offer a huge amount of enhancements, but it's a lot of bug fixes, so it should run a lot better for all of us. And I'll be sending an email out about that later today. And we will be going through and updating the client we have about 10 staff members who are administrators that have the client on their desktop, and we'll be in touch with you as well. So this is a wonderful turnout. We really appreciate all of you coming today. I think, I was saying to Anthony, I think all of our bribes worked for, the promise of prizes and our lunch. But, we understand that this isn't the most interesting subject, although it's an important subject. And we hope it'll be helpful to you as well when you go through sort of our program that we've put together. The format today will be a short slide deck and then some demos of the process, and then we'll have some quiz questions at the end with our promised prizes. So let's get started. So we're calling this the Digital Cleanup Program. Hopefully your desktop doesn't look like this. This is an unidentified IETS staffer. So what is the goal of the program? We are focusing on digital cleanup, but if a department wants to expand this to include print materials, we're happy to provide bins that you can use to securely dispose of those. So when we schedule your department for the program, we can arrange that. But our main goals are three. Identify, remove, redact, or audit sensitive and confidential data in your email and file shares, and we'll go through what that is. Remove unnecessary old and large files from folders and drives. And then the third phase is review junk email folders and email archive policies. So why is this important? Our goal here is to be proactive instead of reactive and maintain the trust of our community. So really, security of the data is everyone's responsibility. So individuals who create, use, or maintain the data are responsible for the adequate protection of that data, and we are working to reduce the risk of identity theft, disruption of university operations, and damage to Penn's reputation. So what is considered confidential or highly sensitive data? Passwords, Social Security numbers, and credit card, debit card, or bank account numbers are the obvious, the big three that we're going to be looking for in our sort of phase one of the process. And then certain student records like grades, disciplinary materials, evaluations, certain HR records, salary, performance review, and disciplinary records, and certain alumni data, so giving and contact reports, is all classified by Penn as highly sensitive data. They also have a classification of medium sensitive data that would include contact information for students and all FERPA protected data that's not included in this category. So really the best way to protect data is not to have it. Our goal here is to do a cleanup of unnecessary data. We're going to go through sort of what you need to retain. We don't want anyone throwing away things that we are required to retain. So one question you can ask yourself is it necessary to keep this information for business purposes? Generally, though, we shouldn't be storing passwords, Social Security numbers, credit card numbers, and sensitive confidential data, especially in email and in other places. So how do I know what needs to be retained? I think this is sort of the difficult part of the process is, once you sort of run these tools and it's returned the results, how do I know what I can keep and what I can't keep? Penn has put together some guidelines for staff members. Do not destroy information that is original and still within the records retention requirements. So there is a website that we're linking to here, and all of this information is going to be on ITS Online, and we're going to email it out to everyone when they start the program. This record retention schedule shows you how long you need to keep certain types of records. Do not destroy any information that is involved with a lawsuit or investigation or subpoena. There's an FAQ from the Privacy Office about that. We've had questions in the past about files for faculty or staff who are no longer working at Penn. The faculty support staff, for example, may be working on, have research for a faculty member that's no longer here. Penn has guidance on disposition of documents and data of faculty and staff who are leaving Penn. And we have a link to that. And then sort of when in doubt, because there are a lot of policies and it is a lot to kind of go over, retain the information in a secure location. We'll talk about that. And then we have put together sort of a questionnaire that you'll complete, very brief, at the end of the sort of program that just explains if you need to keep any of this highly sensitive information and some information about it, and then we'll advise you on the best way to do that. So how does the program work? The program is pretty simple. ITS will schedule with your department's partner 3 consecutive days. This is sort of our guideline. I mean, if you're one person's out on vacation, we will work with you. But our guidelines, what we're aiming for is to keep the momentum going and to do like a 3 consecutive day program for department by department. On the morning of day 1, you'll receive an email with step-by-step instructions for the cleanup. And then we'll be stopping by your offices. Corey and Emmett and Anthony and I will be working closely however you need to just get you through the process. Day 1, this is sort of a very light day. Day 1, you just have to start Identity Finder. This is a software program that will crawl on your computer and find any sensitive personal information. It'll look through email, it'll find, it has algorithms in there to identify social security numbers or certain passwords or credit card information. And so this, it really will only take a few minutes of your time on day 1, and then it'll be running in the background, and it could take a few hours depending on how much data you have. So day 1, we will be there to help you make sure that you have that running. And then day 2 is a little more time intensive. This is where you then would go through all the results that Identity Finder found, and based on Penn guidelines and guidance, either delete if it's unneeded, or redact, or secure it if you need it. So we're going to do, Anthony's going to do a demo after the slides of how this is going to work. And then day 3 is where we're focusing on unneeded old and large files and removing them, and a little bit in email. We know that email can be a huge thing for some people. You can take this as far as you want. Our goal is really to get, we want everyone to run Identity Finder. It's required for all staff. So we're focusing on that right now. We'll also be working with the partners to focus on like shared groups areas on the G Drive. And then the last step is, once you've completed day 3, just to submit our digital cleanup survey. And it's a brief survey. We'll show it to you, just a couple questions on there. And if you need to keep any sensitive confidential data, that's where you'll disclose that to us. And once you do that, you get the thumbs up from Fonz. And that is it. So before we move into the quiz, we're going to move on to the demo.
Yep. So I'm just going to detail the process of running Identity Finder and the large file search real quick. So this is our webpage that we put together for the digital cleanup program. Under the Remove Sensitive Data site, you'll see the steps for running Identity Finder. So to run it, you need to open this doc in Internet Explorer, and then when you click here to run Identity Finder, you'll want to click Run and not Save. Oh, Identity Finder is already running. I ran it before this started, so we'll run it again. So every time you run Identity Finder, it's going to prompt you for a password. So you need to make a password that you'll remember. It just basically kind of creates a profile for you, and you have to enter that password anytime you open your results file or run Identity Finder. So this is what Identity Finder looks like when you first open it. You could see it's pre-configured to search for these types of identities, the social security numbers, credit cards, and passwords. And it's already pre-configured to look in file locations where these types of information are typically stored. And all you really need to do on the first day is open this and press start. Depending on the amount of data you have, it could run for a couple hours, or it might need to run overnight. So that's why we're just going to have the first day, you just run it, and then we'll review the results the next day. So this is day 2. This is what it also looks like to open a file if you saved the search and wanted to come back to it later, several days later. You just open it from the file that you had, and this is what the returned search looks like. So you could see it grabbed a lot of emails that I had and found different identities. If you are the only one sitting at your desk looking at this, you can actually change the configuration here and see the matches themselves. So if you're not sure whether or not something is sensitive or not, or whether it grabbed the false positive, you can either display the last 4, or you can unmask altogether and view the passwords in plain text. So you can also sort this by file location, date modified. But perhaps the most important part of this is to identify false positives and to figure out what you need to delete. Deleting emails are particularly tough because it can't just go and redact the sensitive information. It needs to delete the entire email. So if you have an email that you need to save and you wanted to delete just that information from it, you could save that as a PDF and redact it from there. But majority of the files you'll find you can just hopefully just get rid of. And then once you go through all of this, you can either shred it here, which basically gets rid of that file altogether, or you can ignore it and tell it this is okay, this isn't sensitive data. And that's really all you'll need to do for day 2. Day 3 is pretty straightforward. It's just going to be going to your own U drive and going to the top right, and you're going to be running a search for files that are old or excessively large. So first you can run the search clicking on size and then click on gigantic. I only have one gigantic file. So I'll go back and make a search for date modified. Go for files from earlier this year, and you can see everything that was returned. This is basically just kind of mostly for your own housekeeping purposes. Clearing up some storage and getting rid of unnecessary files just makes it easier and more efficient for kind of like turnover or just helping with files in general management. So that's day 3, and then you also will be reviewing with your email your junk email folder, your archive policy, and we also have instructions on how to search for old and large files in email. But depending on how long you're working, it might be a very large return, so you can understand if you don't want to just do that all in one day. Does anyone have any questions about the process, running Identity Finder or looking for old and large files?
They can open the email through one in the Identity Finder view.
You can open the email, yes. You can actually, they have a preview feature as well. You can't open the file location of email. You see this is grayed out. With normal files, like a PDF or a doc, you can open the file location and take a look at the file itself and even scrub out the data manually. But yeah, you can create a preview of it. So
this will be returning both files as well as emails. So files you'll be able to open.
Yeah, it might take a little while. So.
Okay, so really what we'll be doing once we schedule is we'll be sending you an email with the step-by-step instructions. And we'll be working with you. So don't feel like that this is complicated, you're going to be lost. But are there any questions about the program or how it's going to work? Any concerns?
So you're thinking that during this really period we should be focusing on this, but we can do other things?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
We're just trying to sort of set the spirit of, a cleanup These are guidelines to keep the momentum going. Day one isn't going to take very much of your time at all. I mean, it's a 5-minute thing. You're going to set it up and it's going to be running in the background. Day two, I think you'll have to dedicate a little more time to it. It really depends on how much is found. Some people who've been working here a while might have a lot more materials found, from years ago, and so that can take some time. But we're really trying to just push guidelines. We're not going to come after you if you don't make the day two, goals. Elise.
Do we have specific limits to how much memory you can use individually in our email or quotas and there?
Yeah, there are quotas. Do you guys have any comments about that? I mean, we have quotas on email and drives, although we sort of work with people depending on your needs. Is there a concern about?
I'm just kind of curious. Like, on my personal email, it reaches a certain point and then clean it.
Yeah, I mean, we.
And I just wondered if you
If there is a point, but you generally send out a warning email before you hit it. If it's like a use case where you need the extra space, you make it bigger.
Yeah. I mean, I think our emphasis here is getting rid of things that we just don't need. We save things for a reason we think we need it, and then years go by and we don't need it. And so some of those, it's a risk to keep the data. So, we had the line in there about sort of unnecessary risk of keeping unnecessary data. So that's, I think, what we're focusing on.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, then I
Now,
guess-
the promise of prizes. We have a couple easy quiz questions. Bring up the
Yep.
slideshow.
So we just have a few questions that we'll go through just to see if you guys are paying attention. We also have some prizes to hand out. So we're trying to get 3 different people to name one of each of the 3 goals of the data cleanup program.
Redact all the private information.
Yep, that is, you got it. Prize number 1. Does anybody know one of the other 2 goals?
Get rid of old large files.
Yep. And who knows the 3rd goal? It, yeah, it has a little bit to do with email. I could keep the candy. That's pretty cool. Well, we have some other room for questions. The last goal is to review junk email folders and look at your email archive policies. So I'm going to try and get 3 different people just to name one of the main types of data that Identity Finder can locate. So that was, okay, Elise? Yep.
Credit card information?
Yep. And Jason? That's all of them. Robin and Jason.
Thank you.
So what are 2 other types of highly sensitive data other than passwords, SSN, credit card numbers? Yep. Anyone else?
Performance reviews.
Yep. So, and since it was Judy, and then since we didn't answer the other one, we still have one more prize we can throw in for this question. If anyone knows another type of highly sensitive data. Yep. So, this final quiz question for the last box of Tasty Cakes. What is the final step of the cleanup program? Yes. Well, that's it. You guys are experts.
So that's it. If there's any questions, we'll be working with the partners to schedule the program. We'll be getting started at your convenience and running through the summer. And thanks for coming. Please help yourself